The facts are the facts, but the perspective is, what emotional charge are you telling your story from? What's the underlying emotion that you are channeling into your story? It's literally like storytelling is two things: the facts and the perspective that you're telling it from. Like facts plus perspective. And perspective, think of the sun. There's multiple rays around that entire perspective that you can tap into. You can tap into the joyful perspective, the sad perspective.
When you go beyond the surface and into the depths of who you truly are, you will rise. If you see me and Tina together, you know that we have something beautiful coming your way and cooking up. If you don't know who we are, we came together and we created Collective Voices, and it is truly one of my favorite things. I was reflecting on this actually very recently, knowing we were going to come together and record this. I was just reflecting on just how, like, talk about legacy, and it is just like one of those things that it's like a pride and joy to have created what we've created through Collective Voices. You know, this like beautiful co-author experience that we've created, just like, and you know what's been 5 years ago,
Yes.
around this time that the idea of it landed. That's what
Yes.
came through. I was like, oh my gosh, I was coming back from vacation and we were just figuring out. And then you had the idea and it landed and we just ran with it. And we were just like, let's play and let's see. And now 5 volumes later, and here we are opening up for our 6th one, which sounds so great to say it.
Yeah, it's funny because 5 years ago, Julian, which is my firstborn, was a baby. And now I have my second born, who's also a baby and in that same stage, right? Like the newborn stage, baby stage. And so I just find it so interesting. Like, I don't know if we want to call that full circle, because I know you and I, we've gone through some shifts. Maybe the last you've heard of Collective Voices, for those listening, it's like maybe you heard that our 5th one was our last one. And at the time when we decided that, that was what we wanted. But now looking back, we realized we needed a sabbatical. We needed to take time and space away, because Ash and I we've gone through so much change and so much healing. And my gosh, like, you got married, like, we've gone through so many different things, like big milestone life things, and like loss, grief, marriage. There's been so much change. Even our dynamic in our business partnership changed as well. So we're back, and we feel like we've shifted, and we want to bring this newfound kind of, like, we've almost rebirthed ourselves through the things that we've gone through, and we want to bring this newfound energy to Collective Voices for volume 6.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
excited. It's going to be so
such an honor.
beautiful. It is. It really, and I think that's what it comes down to is, and we've always said this, when we are in Collective Voices and we're in that experience, it is so profound to witness every single person who comes through it, to see them change and to be able to simply just hold that space for people is the most fulfilling thing that I feel like I've ever done. And you and I are both like, we're both authors. We've both written our book. We've both done some pretty incredible things. But when I just sit with Collective Voices, it is just, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of what we created and the experience that we bring for everyone. And I think, if for those that are tuning in and are like, what the heck is Collective Voices? It's a co-author experience. It is the space to write and share and tell your story. What's been so fascinating and what I always love is how we never have a title. The title
Mhm.
comes through the experience, and some way, somehow, shape or form, there ends up being this incredible journey when we start ordering the chapters together. It ends up being a journey. And this is just, I don't even sometimes don't even have words to explain how it happens, but it just does. It's so guided. And that's why I think it's even guided beyond us, too.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is guided beyond us. We're all plugged into something bigger for sure. And when Ash talks about like the journey, what she's specifically speaking to is the order in which these authors, who are their own individual people, their stories that they don't know each other's stories, end up becoming part of each other's stories, if that makes sense. Because nobody knows in this co author experience, no one knows what story the other author is telling. And so we go on these, like, we guide everybody on this journey to write their story, and then it all gets put together, and the order in which the stories end up naturally just being put together when you're reading the book from start to end is like as if it's one cohesive story. So that's what she means when it's like she's in that, on that journey as the reader. You're reading multiple chapters written by different people, but it's this one solid journey. It's kind of like this union that's created,
Yeah.
amongst our writers. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And we even actually have one of our authors that said, sent us a message. I guess it's a testimonial that said, there are no words, you just have to experience it. And it's so true. Even as the guides, for us to sit and we're trying to describe what it's like on the inside, I find language can be so limiting sometimes to really
Mm.
depict what exactly the feeling is when you're on the inside and in the experience. But it's been so remarkable to witness the authors just go through their own transformation and healing, and even just like rewriting their stories, because there's so many perspectives that we can share our stories in, like so many angles that we can speak to what we've gone through it and different experiences.
Yeah. And I find a lot of them always say that even after the book is published, it's like, I could have done this differently. Like we can always we're ever evolving. And that's always the thing too. And that's the magic in it as well, is that you also get to continue to tell the story and continue to rewrite the story, no matter how many ways you want to do that. And I think what's really powerful is also to witness everyone, a lot of those who have come through collective voices. And yes, there's the aspect of how cathartic writing is, and what they've all said was how cathartic and healing writing is. And then also this other shift that begins to happen where you really start to face and overcome a lot of these fears, around fear being the biggest one, right? Like the fear, and that looks like so many different levels and layers to it. For every single one, it's different. But to see them really shift that fear, whatever it was for them, and to then go off and write their own books, write children's books, start businesses, and it just being this beautiful experience, this beautiful, I've always said it's like this catalyst to more, like to whatever it else, right? And it's just having this space to, yes, write the story, publish the story, and also be surprised that you're going to shift and you're going to be expanded is also what I wanted to add to that too.
Yeah, and as you're speaking to that and you're saying that it's like a catalyst for more, it's also, in addition to that, it's like a catalyst for more that are seeking more. And then
Yeah.
it's also a catalyst for deeper healing, which really for me, writing is healing for me. It's the thing that I go to. And for the individuals that are part of CV that didn't necessarily do more, out externally, if that makes sense, like start a podcast, a business, or anything like that, there are deeper layers that they've accessed within themselves to understand themselves, to gain that self-awareness, to take their healing journey to the next level. But when I say level, it's like level within, not
Yeah.
level without. You know what I'm saying? It's like so many of the authors have accessed so much more within themselves and without them, and on the outside, if that makes sense, like creating more, so it's really a journey of like inward outward. It's like this
Yeah.
inner outer beautiful dance of, just because not everybody wants to start a business or a podcast or anything,
Hmm.
but no one's closed to that idea as well. Because I think some of the individuals who've gone through CV who just have started like a children's book, I don't think saw themselves as an individual that may wanted to do that, or actually would say yes to that. Maybe they always wanted to secretly, but
Yeah.
they maybe didn't feel worthy enough, or they didn't feel that their voice was worthy to be seen or heard. So there's a healing aspect I find that I've witnessed through the authors, like this healing journey that happens.
Hmm.
And maybe I see that because that's what writing is for me. So, it's kind of like,
Yeah. I was just
yeah.
going to say that in through our own experiences and our own journey, we're both writers. We both wrote our own books, and that's what sparked us to come together. And writing was a way that also allowed us to heal, allowed us to access deeper depths of who we are, and open up these other opportunities. I've always said if it wasn't for me writing my book, I would have never, the studio press would never be. It is what it never would have came into existence if I didn't go down this path either. And yet what I also am so mindful of is we are writers and we are storytellers, and we continue to access the courage, because I think that is a very big underlying part in telling our story. We continue to ask the courage and choose courage over fear. And I think underlying under courage is always love, in terms of why we choose to tell our stories and why we choose to put these stories that are out there. But it's not necessarily that it just like it's so easy to always tap into that. There are definitely still going to be moments, there's still moments for us where we we really have to access that level of courage to be able to tell the story that we want to tell. And I remember the experience that you had for our Collective Voices Volume 1. We both contributed to that chapter, to that book. And you really shared something super vulnerable. And I don't know if you and I have ever had the conversation of your like the decision in wanting to share that story that you shared, because it could have been something that you just kept locked away and never had to tell anyone, but you still chose to share it, and I'm curious why you chose to.
Oh, I feel very vulnerable right now. So, for me, writing has always been healing. In the last, I'd say 4 years, we have moved, a handful of times. And I've gone through boxes of old journals, and I found my very first one. And it's when I was 6 or 7. Okay. So when I read through what I wrote at 6 or 7, and oh my gosh, like my writing is so cute, and I'm going back to like little Tina at 6. I always wrote about the things that I needed to get off my chest or release or heal through. And so Tina at 39, or let's just say Tina, I'm 39 now, but Tina who contributed to Collective Voices Volume 1, and the story that I shared in that, it was really about healing. And it was about who else has a deep, dark secret like this, who feels deep shame, who's unable to forgive themselves, who's allowing the experience that, so the chapter that I wrote is about, something that I did that I'm not proud of in my previous relationship. And it's all around betrayal and, breaking trust with my previous partner. And how I kept thinking, how many other people have done what I've done, who are crucifying themselves day in, day out, and unable to move forward in a new relationship because of their negative self talk. The once a cheater, always a cheater. Like there's just so many things that we hear out there. And I'm not saying that betrayal is okay. But the healing with that is, and it's funny, my son Julian, he's 5.5. He said to us the other week, when you betray others, first of all, don't ask me where he gets it. Like this kid is plugged into something bigger, honestly. He said, he turns to me and JP, we're in the kitchen. He says, Mom, Dad, when you betray others, you betray yourself. And literally, that was the message in my chapter when I contributed into CV1. It's about
Yes.
stop looking at, oh my gosh, I did this to them. What
Mm,
did your actions do to you? And what will you commit to no longer doing because you're actually hurting yourself? And so that is something that needed to be part of my journey
mm,
to fully be able to find a true, soulful, meaningful, like deep love that I have with my husband. Because without that experience, I would not have known what it would have, what it, like, I wouldn't have known what I could have right now.
yeah,
And because I committed to not only not betraying someone else, but I said, I will never put myself through that again.
yeah,
I'll never be the person that betrays someone else and put myself through that. It's almost like I had to turn it into a selfish thing. Like I
yeah.
will never do that to myself, let alone somebody else, but I'll never do that to myself because that was so torturous. It was
Mm,
so torturous.
yeah.
So
It's
that was what my story was about. And I feel like I can speak to it with a little more passion now. But even when I hit publish, well, you knew Ash, like I was like sweating. Like I was so nervous
yeah.
and it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm curious, do you feel like through that writing process that I don't know, I just feel like through writing, we just have this ability to just explore even further depths that we didn't necessarily know were even there. The level of understanding through writing, the not only just healing, but being able to understand, being able to like explore more is I feel like what the writing portal gives us. It allows you to see new perspectives, to see things from different angles, like even just the perspective of how you were doing that to yourself instead of not just doing it to somebody else. And so there's like the level of forgiving, yeah, just the level of coming back to forgiving ourselves for things like that, or moments like that. It's really profound to be able to have these tools that allow us to do that, that give us the space to do that. Yeah, it's really powerful.
It's like, and I see this in my Reiki practice, I feel that everyone's on a healing journey. And one of the things that just breaks my heart, even though as a practitioner, I have to really hold that neutral space to be able to hold space for others, and I can hold compassion within that as well, but is seeing others when they come for their healing sessions, or whether it's Reiki or breathwork, it's the knowing what their intention is, what it is that they're moving through, that they are creating themselves. And when I say creating themselves, I'm saying maybe someone else contributed to their pain. But now if you look at that, that pain is in the past and they're in the present. And their body is somatically still experiencing the trauma. And so obviously they're taking steps towards the healing journey. But where the mind can play tricks on you is that we still choose to live in that story. We still choose to live in that pain. And it takes time to hold a steady and very sturdy and stable new story. And that's why I always have found writing so healing. Like I can open up my laptop, open up my journal doc, and I can, at the start I am grieving, I'm like
Yeah.
a mess, and as I'm writing and releasing and saying all the things that I need to say, like maybe things I would never say to anybody else, I'm releasing, and all of a sudden I notice this super 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 subtle lift. It's
Mm,
like this lift in my body, and then I know that, oh, I released. And now there's something else that I'm like transmuting this energy. And I can feel that shift happening.
yeah.
And, you don't need to be like a Reiki practitioner to feel that. It's literally just witnessing yourself and giving yourself that opportunity to use language and storytelling and conversations or journaling or writing to transmute and clear energy and to shift energy. Like
Yeah.
your energy never dies. It's like you're just shifting it. You're just shifting.
Yeah.
And the goal is, as you shift it, you're feeling better and you're feeling better about yourself and better about seeing yourself through a different lens. Because if I still today saw myself through the lens of, you are a cheater, you will never be faithful in a relationship, do you really think I would have JP in my life and the family I've created? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I had to hold that really steady belief that I could be better, that I could do better, and release myself from this like label and title that I'm a specific way just because I've done it one time.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a healing journey. Writing is so healing. It's been
Yeah.
so healing for me, and it still continues to be healing.
Seriously. And I think as we've talked about, just like I don't know, I still feel like weird around the writer whole piece identity, but like I know I'm a storyteller, and I know that I am someone who uses story to share and to be a vessel and a way of healing for others. I've recognized that through sharing my own story, but there's always just this profound experience. And as you were talking about it, my brain, you know that I've been studying like creative alchemy, and I am just seeing it in a whole different way now, because we all know what it's like to go through this like dark night of the soul. We all know, we've all experienced that. And you talking about the grief, and it's like that's our dark night of the soul, where like all of it is just, it's coming out and we're releasing. And then once you kind of start to come out of this dark night of the soul, that's when it's like this, like you can kind of start seeing the glimpse of like the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just so powerful how this portal allows us to go through this transformation. And that's what alchemy is. It's all about transformation. And we are creative beings. If you are someone who loves to write, you are a creative being. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you are going to experience this like cycle of transformation over and over and over, like no matter what, we talk about like the journeys never end, like it's never going to end,
Yeah.
and we just get to use writing as this beautiful tool. And I think I just always continue to unlock these like profound moments of, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I have this tool of writing to be able to be my tool to always shift the perspective. And for
Mm.
me, like most recently was like, around my wedding, and I've talked about it here and there, not like fully in depth, but just, navigating some moments specifically with my dad. And after my wedding, I journaled a lot. There was stuff that just really needed to shift, and it was through writing that I was able to see new perspectives, and to be able to like to see the new perspectives, but then come back to love, and to allow like the anger and the sadness and the disappointment to really dissipate or alchemize that back into love. And it was through writing, it was through me being in my journal to experience that and to face that and to also grieve, to allow the grief through so that I could get to that space of the new perspective and the love. And that's why, like, you and I are just like a full stance of just writing is such a healing experience for you, if not for anybody else. Just for you.
Yeah.
That journey just for you is so powerful.
And I think too, with the collective voices experience, and I'm just thinking of one of the authors that I work closely with, because in our collective voices experience, we do offer one-on-one time with Ashley Ann or I to, speak out loud, to go through like speak out loud about any fears, whether it's like shifting your mindset or going over parts of your story that you're just not quite sure you want to put out there. Maybe it needs to be rewritten. And I remember this one individual saying, there's so many ways I could tell this specific part.
Mm,
And the first copy that she wrote was from this place of like really being in it and not having yet transformed the perspective, like shifted the perspective. And so when we were diving into it, she was saying, and like she brought it up herself, she was like, you know what? I want to shift the way I tell this part of the story, because I feel like when I read it, I'm like in this victim mode, like this is happening to me. But she's like, but I know that that was happening for me.
mm,
So I got chills. So then she rewrote it, and the process of rewriting it was so healing for her. Like I could cry thinking about it. We spoke about how she wanted to shift her perspective. She rewrote it, and it was like, wow. And what's interesting is that if she ever slips back into that old story where she was telling herself, oh, this is happening to me, she has this beautiful printed copy of her story that she rewrote.
Yeah.
That came from inside her soul. She rewrote that, and she can reference that as a benchmark, as a new grounding point to basically lift off from.
Mm.
So it's like if she ever slips back into the, oh, it happened to me, she actually has something that she's created and published. I mean, like in our co-author experience, we hit publish.
Yeah.
It's a printed book that you get to hold in your hands. And she gets to go back to that and read the perspective of that was happening for me. And look at where I am now because of that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else is more empowering than that.
It's hearing
Like
you
I don't.
say,
I really don't. I
yeah.
don't. Like it's when you within yourself can go through the process of digging deep to transform the story, that is birthed from inside you,
Mm.
inside your soul. That comes from you. It's not like I said to her, "Hey, look at it this way."
Yeah, exactly.
There's no like we don't do that in collective voices. We don't tell you what to write.
Yeah. Or
We
how.
ask the questions for you to, it's like we're gently pulling out the story and you get to choose what version. And we always encourage the empowered version, because that's what you're going to be the most proud of. And that's where the healing takes place.
Yeah. And there is a whole level when you walk yourself through that. It
Hmm.
is a different level of empowerment when you yourself have guided yourself through that, and it's just cultivating this new level of trust that you can walk yourself through these difficult moments, that you can always choose the other narrative. You can choose the narrative. You can choose what story you tell yourself. And I think that's also like this beautiful experience that happens as you rewrite your story. You can always rewrite your story. And we don't just have one story, we have multiple stories. But when you are participating in part of collective voices, yes, you're choosing one story. You're not going to fit your entire life story, but we really help you find that like one message, that one story that you're going to include. But then the practice gets put onto all these other stories that you have in your life. And you can constantly shift the perspective, shift the narrative, rewrite it however you choose to. And it's this beautiful level of trust that we build within ourselves to say, I can change this. I can change the story. I've walked myself through this, and I get to do it over and over again. And then we stop giving our power up to other people, and we allow ourselves to see how safe it is to go inward,
Yes.
and to experience and to explore the depths of that, to know that
Yeah.
we're safe to explore those depths as well.
And one thing I want to speak to about storytelling is, when we say you're choosing the perspective that you tell this story, we're not saying that you deny the facts,
Yeah.
because the facts are always the facts, but the perspective is the emotion piece. Okay. So you're telling your story. The facts are the facts, but the perspective is what emotional charge are you telling your story from? What's the underlying emotion that you are channeling into your story? It's literally like storytelling is two things: the facts and the perspective that you're telling it from. Like facts plus perspective. And perspective, think of the sun. There's multiple rays around that entire perspective that you can tap into. You can tap into the joyful perspective, the sad perspective, the this is happening for me perspective, this is happening to me perspective. Like there's so many angles, and that's the emotional charge. And because collective voices is such a feel good space,
Yeah.
we've done 5 volumes. we've witnessed every author access the feel good perspective, the growth perspective, the this story is being told for a higher purpose because this is what I'm leaving behind perspective.
Mm. And the one
And,
thing I'll
you
say
know,
to that too, can I add, is just then the fear of it changes into love because it's now coming from just a bigger lens. It's coming from a different level of purpose. It's not like, what are people going to think of me? And yes, those are real. But by the end, it becomes this beautiful act of service. At the bottom line of coming from that place is love. And it reminds me of, as you were talking about, it kind of reminds me just going back to like my first book. And my very first chapter is about my dad. And what you said was just the facts are the facts. My parents split when I was 3. Facts are the facts. And the emotion that I had attached to my dad for a long time, there was a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness. But when I wrote my book, especially that first chapter, what's interesting is there wasn't necessarily fear about him reading it because the bottom line emotion perspective came from love.
yes.
And I wasn't scared. I was not, there was no nerve. So, to be honest, till this day, I'm not even sure that he's read it, and it's fine. It's totally okay. And I understand that too. But my hope would be that one day he could get to the point of just reading that specific chapter because then he could see the end, is that the end is love. That's the end of it. And we always get to choose that perspective. And that's what it reminded me of, that when we then start to see the bigger perspective, the bigger picture, and we kind of like step outside of ourselves for a moment, because that's where a lot of the fear is living. It's just really like ego keeping us safe and just keeping us safe. And yet when we can step out of that, we tap into love.
Mhm.
And then it becomes this beautiful piece for others that are receiving it. It's then it is bigger than you. It is bigger than you.
And it's so funny because it's like the ego is this false sense of security. But when you are able to step out of that and connect with love, love is actually where we feel the most secure.
Yeah.
So
Isn't
isn't
that
that
wild?
interesting? Like within our own being, we have these aspects of ourselves that can literally create an illusion of false safety and false security. When really, like you said, you're not afraid that your dad will read that because you know that it comes from love. You didn't tell the story from the emotion and perspective of poor me. You told it from the perspective of what true forgiveness means and looks like, and what how you took that on at such a young age and ran with forgiveness. I got chills again. And
Yeah.
what that really means. And I mean, if you're I don't know if your dad's read it like you said, but if he reads it, that is a life lesson. Like there's teachings, there's wisdom, and there's lessons in that version that you told.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really powerful. Just that piece around and that's what I see of just coming together as a collective. It's beautiful because there is this one big message. Somehow, some way we end up figuring it out. In the journey, we end up figuring it out. We're on a call and we're like, there it is. There's the title, which is so beautiful and magical. But then every chapter is its own beautiful piece of wisdom that comes through. This beautiful nugget of truth and wisdom that we take on and that we can experience. And it is just, writing a book, we both experienced writing a book by ourselves, and then writing a book in collective, into like
Mhm.
union and community, is a whole other experience and a whole other vibe.
Yeah. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this, Ash, but like what I know makes us different as co-author guides. And I realized this probably by the fourth volume, which I don't know why it took me so long, because over the years I've been invited to so many collectives. Sorry, not so many co-author experiences. But what never sat well with me was that the book title was already chosen. The theme of what we had to write about was already chosen. So it was almost like I had to fit myself into someone else's vision.
Oof.
And what I love about Collective Voices, which we did this organically because it felt like it was going against every part of our being to make people fit into a box when this whole experience is supposed to be healing, right?
Yes.
Is we invite people to share what they want to share. We encourage the empowered perspective so they can walk themselves through the healing process of shifting the perspective. And the design isn't pre-picked. Like everything unfolds organically and has a piece of every single author within the title, the back cover description, the colors, the tones. I feel that we do such an amazing job allowing that to unfold organically. And as guides, it takes more organization for you and I, more management, and more trust, that we really have to trust that it's going to come together. But you and I have done it 5 times over.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to do it. And it's going to get better and better and more amazing for us as guides, because in behind the scenes, Ash and I do a lot of, we're managing it, we're supporting the authors, and we're going through the journey with everybody, right? And think of how easy it would be for us to pre-pick everything and then like ask everyone to fit themselves into what our vision was. No, that's not what we do. And I think that's one of the things I love the most about Collective Voices. And maybe this is why we've never been able to energetically create more than like 2 a year or 3 a year. It's like, it doesn't even feel aligned to do that.
Yeah.
So we've naturally, organically just done what, one a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it just happened organically because, yeah, it's a lot energetically, right? To just trust in the process for this whole project to unfold as it does. And it's literally succeeded every time.
Yeah.
It's even a journey for us as guides, right? Like if you're seeing that, I don't know if you feel that. It's like it's a journey for us because we have to trust in the process too.
Yeah.
Because we don't pre-pick anything. We do not pre-pick anything.
Yeah.
And we never know who's going to sign up. We're meeting everybody for the first time most of the time,
Yeah.
and hearing everyone's stories for the first time most of the time.
Yeah. Which is just everyone comes in with this, everyone's coming in feeling the same, in the sense that there's a lot of nerves. One of the authors, she has said this so many times, but on the podcast, Natalie, she goes, Ashley, I was going to like back out like so many times throughout, it's like, you're going to experience that. You will. I promise you will. Like, and if it just means that I love her perspective on it. It just means that she cares. She cares so much about it. And yet it truly was. I know she sticks out in the sense of just like the fear that she had to really like overcome, to put herself out and to share that story. And again, it is so profound to be doing this as a group, and to also see how, especially with our last collective volume 5, how deep down, I remember us talking before, like to all these individual people before they kind of said yes to the experience. And it was this underlying theme of, I've always loved to write. I've always wanted to write a book. I've always wanted to put my writing out. There was this underlying theme with all of them. And then here, what are the chances? It was so divinely guided for all of them to be in this same group together, to write their stories together, to support each other, to then put themselves out. It is, and to really like accomplish this lifelong dream. It is such a profound experience. And it's just, yeah, it does require us for like so much trust. I've never even thought about that, because I think I just know it's going to happen, because,
Yeah, for sure.
it's just, we know it's going to happen.
when we're in it, and like we'll be fully transparent. Ash and I will be very transparent when we're in it and we're guiding. We have no idea what's going to come up. So we both are holding a very steady energy within ourselves to hold space, hold safe space, because there's so many different stories that are being told. Like so many, my gosh, like we can name so many different stories that have been told. And these stories are sometimes, like most of the time, soft spots for people to speak about. So imagine the fear and the courage that they have to tap it, the fear that they overcome and the courage that they tap into to be able to tell the story. But like Natalie in one of the podcast interviews, she says, "Why didn't I do this sooner? Now I'm
Yeah.
seeing how many people it has helped." She's a cancer survivor. I got chills. She's like, "Why didn't I do this sooner? I didn't realize how many people I could touch with my story." And it's like my heart, I'm like, wow. I love, like, I can't believe, I just love that
Yeah.
she is able to even access that. Like, why didn't I do this sooner?
And that's the love
You know,
piece.
but it's a recognition of, I've been afraid. I've been afraid to be judged. I've been afraid to put myself out there. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't, I was afraid to share this part of my story. And she has kids too. So there's also that layer too of like, when you're a mother and you're sharing your story and this is going to go to print and you're hitting publish, you also have this, okay, I am writing something that my child may read one day. And so there's this added, I don't want to say pressure, but this added, I really want to rise
Mm.
and tell the story that is infused with wisdom, infused with teachings. Because if I die tomorrow and they need to hear mama's voice through my story, they read my chapter and they connect to my soul. I can cry
Yeah.
just thinking about it.
I'm getting it over here.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And yeah, it's so powerful. I think we really see the power as guides because we witness such beautiful transformations.
Over
And
and over.
yeah,
And it's,
and
yeah,
we really see it.
it's very powerful to I was going to say about the piece of like it can feel like pressure, and then also we can always choose that it's excitement to say I get to leave this behind, because listen, coming from the perspective of you die tomorrow, there's just things that like are not going to be there. And yet, a book is something that continues to live on. Think about the books that you yourself have read from authors who some of them are no longer here. And that is living on. That is like the most beautiful thing that I love around just that piece of finding that courage, because it's there's the courage of writing the story, and we understand, and that's what the piece that I wanted to just tap into a little bit too is like we understand all the fears that are going to come up and that you're going to feel and that are not going to just disappear. And I also want to add that it's kind of like the whole piece around like doing the thing, like even though you're experiencing the fear, it's holding both, it's dancing with both. There's going to be the fear as it ignites that I want to experience this and this is the invitation for me. You're going to experience that fear. There is going to be that. We know that. And there's also going to be this side of you that is probably tingling, even just listening to us talk about this. And probably like internally, you're like, yes, I want to experience something like that. That
Yeah.
is, you're holding both, and we're going to walk you through both, and we're going to hold you through both, especially when that fear is coming up. We hold you, not just us as guides, but the entire collective with you. We are walking hand in hand with this. And that gives me that visual, that image gives me like chills and makes me emotional because it's just so beautiful to see us all walking hand in hand to create a new earth, to bring this truth and wisdom of through our stories into the world. It's so profound, and it's so, there's just no other way, like I can't see any other way to do it.
Yeah. As you say that, I also want to mention that we actually had in our last collective, we had a writer who was already an author join the collective.
Mm,
So it's not just individuals that want to, I don't think our people that want to, I want to be an author. Maybe they are, but this specific individual, she was already an author and she wanted to join and in the experience of writing in community.
yeah.
And a lot of the authors that have gone through CV have said that they want to come back and do it again.
Hmm.
And so that really tells us as guides, as like the experience is one of a kind and the experience is transformational. And so we welcome that. If you're already an author, we welcome you to write in community. If you've already been part of Collective Voices, we welcome you back
Yeah.
because you will notice that Ashley Ann and I, we have evolved in our approach and how we guide. Our program is evolving as we've evolved. And that, yeah, that's just undeniable too. I
Yeah.
don't think people will not notice that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is just our beautifully long winded way of inviting you
Yeah.
into our next collective, volume 6. And if just anything in what we've shared, what we've talked about is all I can say, I mean, I feel it in my gut because I'm, a Manny Gen, so I feel it in my sacral. But, if there's that little nudge of intuition that's coming through, whatever that feels like for you when you get that tingly feeling sensation of wanting to say yes to something, then I invite you to follow that and to trust yourself in that, and also to reach out to either myself or Tina. I'll leave both of our links down below for like Instagram, and just DM us, or or if you want to email us, whatever feels good. If you want to DM us and ask questions, we are so excited about this next collective and the space that we're creating, and to also just see that evolution of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be beautiful.
I'm even just excited to witness you as a guide, Ash. You've gone through so much shifts in your life that I get emotional thinking about witnessing you as a guide, in this too. So I'm just excited about so many things.
Me too, me too. I think too it's just we I think where I get really most excited is this is like what we've created, and to see like two incredible, beautiful, powerful women come together who experience their own journeys of writing their story, and like where this came from and where this stemmed from, and just where we also just get to bring both of our gifts in. All of who we are comes into collective voices, like
Yeah.
who you are as a teacher and a guide. I've learned so much from you, and I love to see you take our authors on these journeys too. Like, I'll never forget when we started doing the author identity, like I was emotional. It's like it's so powerful. What we take them through and guide them through is so profound, and it's so fun to be in the creative energy and to be in this space, and just to witness all of it. So I'm so excited. This is going to be so beautiful. So this is the invitation to all of you who are here and tuning in. We'll leave the link down to the Collective Voices website so you can just get all the information, and then feel free to DM us. And I already have been talking to the guides, and I'm like, you know, bring whoever is meant to be here. We are welcoming you. Go talk to their
Yeah,
guides now.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. We look forward to seeing you in Collective Voices.
Mm.